All right, Matt, UFC 244, our co-main event of the evening between Kelvin Gastelum and Darren Till. And Matt, we're going to switch things up and do it totally differently because everybody out there asked for this. You wanted us to spend more time on the fights. We're going a full 5 minutes for our co-main and our main event. Thank you to everybody out there. So, Matt, let's set this one up. You got Kelvin Gastelum coming off an interim title shot against Israel Adesanya, where it's one of the best fights a lot of people have ever seen in MMA. And he's taken on a really tough test in Darren Till, moving up from welterweight, the biggest type of welterweight that you're ever going to see. Now, Matt, we're going to break this fight down in a whole lot of different ways, but my first question to you is, do you see potential title ramifications in this fight?
So I think we can all agree Paulo Costa is going to get the next title shot. That's been sort of building over the past few years, and it's worked out perfectly. He's the number one contender. Adesanya's the champ. That fight's going to be really big. And Jared Cannonier, he's done everything he possibly can to get a title shot. It's just the timing's not really right now. So he's probably going to need one more fight to sort of guarantee him that place. And I really do think that this fight comes into play with regards to that. The winner of this probably isn't going to get a title shot just due to the fact that Gastelum lost his last title shot. So it's going to take him a little bit of time just to kind of get back into that conversation. But the winner of this will probably fight Jared Cannonier. And then the winner of that will be your next title challenger.
And I mean, Darren Till, he's on a 2-fight losing streak coming into this one. But let's go back 2 fights. I mean, Tyron Woodley was for the title, and yeah, he made a pretty major mistake in that as far as game planning was concerned. Then you take on Jorge Masvidal, really big fight. It was over in England.
Good fight.
Did not win that one.
He did not, but he did a lot of positives in that fight to his credit. He dropped Masvidal with the first punch he threw in that. And just credit to Masvidal, he's got like one of the all-time chins in MMA, but that was a really good fight. But the thing that Masvidal did that I don't see Kelvin Gastelum doing is Masvidal did a lot of like magician work, like look over here while something else happens over here. And I don't see Kelvin Gastelum doing that. Kelvin Gastelum is very much boxing oriented, and that's why everything in this fight says that Gastelum probably should win. He's been at middleweight for a longer time. He's had more time to adjust to the weight class. He hits, I would say, harder just due to the fact that we've seen him with a lot more knockouts at middleweight, so his power is more adjusted. But I really do think that Darren Till's skill set is going to give Kelvin Gastelum quite a few problems in this fight. Because Gastelum, he's very boxing and wrestling heavy, but we don't really see him use his wrestling all that often until he really, really has to. We saw that in the Adesanya fight. And I feel like this will be much more similar to that because...
So if we can go back through, and I don't mean to interrupt, but if we can go back through Gastelum's, last 4 or 5 fights, it's kind of a weird tale because there's fights that he won that they're pertinent. They make a lot of sense. There's fights that he lost that kind of make you wonder. I mean, you go all the way back. So he fought Chris Weidman in or on Long Island, lost that one by submission. No big deal. Comes back. Gets a win, and can you tell us about that win that was
he knocked out Michael Bisping, who had one eye and had just fought George St. Pierre. So that win doesn't mean
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So that win, 2 weeks after the GSP fight, did not happen 2 weeks ago. And so that kind of has an asterisk next to it. And then he fought Jacare in one of the better fights of last year. It was a phenomenal fight, but it was a split decision, and a lot of people did think Jacare won. I know Craig does. I saw it. It was one of those fights that could go either way. It wasn't really a robbery by any means, but you really have to wonder kind of how much his wins weigh, because there are a few question marks next to them. But in his last fight, even in a loss, you can gain a lot of momentum. And I feel like that's what the Adesanya fight did for him. And it really showed just how talented Kelvin Gastelum is.
And I've got it up on the screen. I mean, Darren Till, 17-2-1, and at one point 16-0-1, had that draw against Nicholas Dalby. And Matt, before we came on here, we were talking about some of the bigger wins. Yasinayari, so what? Velichkovic,
he beat the brakes.
He looked great. Donald Cerrone knockout. Wonder Boy looked great.
Terrible fight, but he dropped it.
Yeah, and then you look at Kelvin Gastelum. We talked about some of these fights. A no contest against Vitor.
Well,
that was kind of ridiculous.
You gotta stay off the weed.
Exactly. But Darren Till coming from a bit of a smaller camp over in the UK. Kelvin Gastelum coming from Kings, which is one of the bigger camps in the States. And you'd have a lot of great training partners there. A lot of good training partners in California in general for him. Matt, as far as this fight's concerned, listen, we still have a minute left. We're looking over at the odds. Darren Till, a plus 155 or so.
Fair.
Kelvin Gastelum is a favorite, of course, having more experience at middleweight and coming off that title fight, but a minus 175. First of all, do you agree with those odds?
I do. I feel like Gastelum should be a slightly bigger favorite, if we're being completely honest. I just feel like the name of Darren Till kind of raised the odds a little bit for him. I do think... This is how I see it. Kelvin Gastelum's like a Swiss Army knife. He has multiple ways to beat you because he can take Darren Till down. Darren Till's a machete, though. He has one way to beat you, but he's so damn good with that one way, it's not even funny. Both guys have to get in close. Both guys mainly use their hands. This could be a phenomenal fight, and I really wish it was 5 rounds, to be completely honest. But phenomenal pay-per-view. This is perfect co-main event.
Or fight night.
I've been going back and forth constantly. I know I said Darren Till right before we hit the play button. I think Kelvin Gastelum's going to KO him, unfortunately. I feel like there is a place for Darren Till at the top of the middleweight division. I just think like they should have had him fight Brad Tavares and not Kelvin Gastelum right now. Just a guy at the lower end of the top 15. But that's how I see it. Kelvin Gastelum.
Matt, I'm going to be taking Darren Till. I think he's going to be able to get it done for that same reason, and I like the way that you put it. That machete X factor. And listen, they're both going to get right into the center of the cage. This isn't going to be a tentative fight from either guy whatsoever. And this very well could be fight of the night. I know we said that about Wonder Boy and Luque, but this is one of those great fights for such a great card. Matt, UFC 244, 2-minute and 5-minute predictions here on YouTube.
Let's get into it.